They said I wasn't worthy of my own son's wedding. No seat, no invitation, not even my name on the guest list. But 2 weeks later, they sent me the bill, $65,000. Tell me, what kind of son does that? They thought an old woman would stay quiet. They were wrong.
I found out my son was getting married from Facebook, not from him, not from a call, not even from a message, just a photo. Him in a navy suit, smiling wide, standing next to people I didn't recognize. The caption said, "Family only." I stared at that screen while my coffee went cold in my hands. 2 days later, I finally asked him. I didn't accuse. I didn't cry. I just said, "Son, when is the wedding?" There was a pause. Then his voice changed. He said, "Mom, it's complicated. You wouldn't fit in." Fit in? I raised him alone after his father passed, worked double shifts, skipped meals so he could eat, sat in hospital hallways praying quietly so he wouldn't see me break. But suddenly, I didn't fit in. The real humiliation came a week later. An envelope arrived, thick, formal. Inside was a breakdown of wedding costs, venue, catering, decorations. At the bottom, one line was circled in red. Mom's contribution, $65,000. No invitation, no seat, just a bill. I sat there in silence, holding that paper, realizing something painful. They didn't erase me by accident. They erased me on purpose. But what they didn't know was that this wasn't the first time I'd been underestimated, and it wouldn't end quietly. I didn't argue. I didn't call him back. I folded that bill slowly and placed it inside my Bible. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was my sister from Ohio. Her voice was shaking. She said, "Why didn't you tell me you're not invited?" That's when I understood. They didn't just exclude me, they announced it. At a family dinner, 40 people, laughing, passing wine, my son stood up and said, "We're keeping the wedding very selective. Some people bring complications." Then he looked straight at me. No names, no shouting, just enough so everyone knew. I smiled, not because I was strong, but because I refused to give him the scene he wanted. Later that night, my daughter-in-law sent a message. Not an apology, not an explanation, just this: "Please transfer the amount by Friday. Vendors are waiting." That's when the memory hit me. Flashback. Me 25 years ago standing in line at the bank, selling my wedding bangles so my son could pay college tuition on time. I remembered his hands, small, shaking when I dropped him at the dorm. And now, those same hands were holding out a bill. I sat alone in my living room, lights off, invoice on the table, love on one side, self-respect on the other, and for the first time in my life, I didn't know which one would survive. But what happened next was the moment everything shifted, because Friday came and I finally made a decision they never expected. Friday morning arrived without noise, no dramatic music, no speeches in my head, just sunlight through my kitchen window and that invoice still sitting on the table. I made myself tea, not coffee. Tea always slows my hands when they shake. At 9:17 a.m., my son called. He didn't say hello. He said, "Did you send it?" No concern, no shame, just money. I asked him something instead. I said, "Where would I be sitting at your wedding?" There was a pause, a longer one this time. Then he sighed, annoyed. He said, "Mom, it's complicated. You wouldn't understand." Business. That word landed heavier than any insult. I remembered scrubbing floors at midnight, remembered sleeping in my coat at bus stops, remembered skipping heat in winter to save for his school fees. And he called it business. I took a breath. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't remind him of sacrifices. I just said one sentence. I won't be sending the money. Silence. Then his tone sharpened. He said, "Do you realize how bad this will make us look?" I replied, calm and steady, "You didn't worry about how I looked when you erased me." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, waiting for guilt. It didn't come. What came, instead, was relief. For the first time, I chose myself. But refusing the money wasn't the end. It was the trigger. Because that afternoon, they stopped asking politely. By afternoon, the calls started coming faster. Not just from my son, from relatives, from people who hadn't spoken to me in years. One aunt said, "Why are you ruining such a happy moment?" A cousin whispered, "Just pay quietly, don't embarrass them." Embarrass them? No one asked how I felt. No one asked why I wasn't invited. That evening, my son showed up at my door. No flowers, no apology. He stood there, arms crossed, jaw tight. He said, "If you don't help us, don't expect to be part of this family anymore." Family? The same family that hid me, billed me, shamed me in public? I looked at him and noticed something new. Fear. The wedding deposits weren't paid, vendors were calling, and suddenly I wasn't just a mother. I was the solution. I told him calmly, "You already made that choice for me." His voice dropped. He said, "People will hear about this, about how selfish you are."
That's when I understood. They weren't asking anymore. They were threatening my name. That night, I opened an old metal box under my bed. Inside were documents, receipts, property papers, things I had signed years ago, trusting blindly. I didn't cry. I read, and something became very clear. They thought I had no power left. They were wrong, because the next move wasn't emotional. It was legal, and it would change everything. Saturday morning, I didn't call my son. I called a lawyer, an old one, the kind who listens more than he speaks. I laid the papers out on my dining table, loan agreements, property transfers, handwritten notes, things I signed when I believed love was enough protection. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, read quietly, then looked up at me. He said, "You didn't gift this money. You invested it." That sentence changed the air in the room. He explained slowly, the house deposit, the joint accounts, the clause my son rushed me through years ago. They thought I was careless. I wasn't. I was trusting, and trust leaves a paper trail. By Monday, legal notices were drafted. Not angry, not loud, just official. That afternoon, my son called again. His voice was different now, lower, careful. He said, "Mom, why are lawyers contacting us?" I didn't raise my voice. I gave him one sentence, the only one that mattered. "You involved money where love should have been." Silence. Then panic. He said, "You're going to ruin everything." I replied, steady and clear, "No, I'm ending it." For the first time, he wasn't controlling the situation. He was reacting to it, and that scared him. But the real shock, it didn't happen in a courtroom. It happened at the wedding itself. The wedding was held on a Sunday afternoon. White flowers, crystal lights, perfect smiles. I arrived quietly, not announced, not invited, just present. The room froze when they saw me. My son's face went pale. My daughter-in-law stopped smiling mid-laugh. I didn't walk to the front. I didn't interrupt the ceremony. I walked to the empty seat in the back, the one meant for no one. After the vows, during speeches, I stood. My hands didn't shake. I said one sentence, not loud, not angry, just clear. I was good enough to raise him, but not good enough to sit here. Silence swallowed the room. Then I placed an envelope on the gift table. Inside wasn't money. It was a copy of the legal notice. Guests whispered. Phones came out. Smiles disappeared. I didn't wait to see the fallout. I walked out with my head high. Outside, the air felt lighter.
I didn't lose a son that day. I lost an illusion, and I gained something better. My dignity. Because love that demands silence isn't love. I didn't raise a son to own me. Tell me honestly, was I wrong to say no? Should a mother ever pay to be respected? Would you forgive or walk away? Comment yes or no if you believe mothers deserve dignity, not invoices. Support this channel, because silence protects the wrong people.